Hello and welcome to the journey of self-discovery. Today with a little different video. I decided upon several requests that I have received over the years to share my recipe for eggless croissants that I have created. Since croissants are not so easy to make, I also wanted to share a tutorial on how to do them. Now, if you compare this video to the rest of what you find on my channel, it seems a little off topic, since I rather speak about philosophy. But actually, I can get quite philosophical about croissants also. So if you want, you can stay till the end and I will share it. But in case, however, you just came across this channel to find the recipe for eggless or vegan croissants, I spare you that part till the end and you can decide whether or not you want to catch it. So without further ado, let's jump into the kitchen. Okay, so let's start with the ingredients first. We need white flour, yeast, we need sugar, we need a lot of butter, we need milk, yogurt, salt, a little bit cinnamon, and a bit of vanilla sugar. For a vegan version of the recipe, you can check down the video description. Now we want to get all the ingredients in our dough mixer. Best is if we have a nice machine that can beat up the dough for several minutes. And if that's not available, a normal kitchen machine should do. And you need to mix the dough for quite some time, and I will explain you later why. So while the dough is being mixed up, we go to our next step. By rolling flat the butter we will later put into our dough. And as you might have noticed, when you have a croissant, you have these several layers. And these layers are the several levels of butter that are being put into the dough. And these make the typical pastry dough. For practical purposes, I always use the 2 butter wraps and putting the butter in between the wraps, then taking a rolling pin, rolling the butter flat. The butter will not stick to either the table or the rolling pin. Now the temperature of the butter is actually quite important. It should be neither too warm nor too cold. If it's too cold, then it will be very hard to roll them flat. And if it's too warm, it starts melting and you cannot work with it properly. So usually I take the butter out of the fridge when I start mixing the dough, and by the time the dough is in the machine and starts mixing, the temperature is just right for me to work with. So back to our dough, we should make sure that it develops the right consistency. It should be a smooth and non-sticking dough. Sometimes we may have to add some water or some flour dependent on whether or not the dough is too hard. For a dough with wheat flour, you need to mix the dough for at least 12 minutes in a fast way. And this is very important, otherwise the dough will not be elastic. So here I try and feel if the dough is good, and I decided it needs a bit longer time. So I put it for another 2 or 3 minutes. So now the dough is good, and you can see just how much elastic this dough is. There's a trick I learned in the bakery. If you can stretch the dough so much that you can basically read newspaper through it without it breaking, then you know it's good. So now we take out the dough and let it rest for a couple of minutes. And then we need to measure 1 kilogram of dough, which is equivalent to 250 grams of butter, which is usually 1 piece of butter you can get in the supermarket. Now comes the most difficult part. We need to roll the butter into the dough. So first we roll flat the dough into a rectangle. Then we place the butter in the middle of that rectangle. Ideally, the width of the dough should not be longer than the butter. That's why I corrected it. Now we fold the dough into the butter. Be careful not to overlap the dough. Just make sure that the dough is enclosing around the butter without the dough overlapping. Now we need to roll the dough, and for this purpose we should use some flour so it won't stick on the table or the rolling pin. So roll it flat. Then take 1/3 of the dough and bring it into the middle. Take the upper half and enclose the dough. Make sure that there's no dough sticking or overlapping on the edges. Now take some plastic foil and wrap it around the dough and put it into the fridge. With the plastic foil there will be no skin that will develop and harden the dough. Then it needs to rest for 1 hour in the fridge. I took the chance to make a little walk in the forest and show you where I live.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
So after about 1 hour has passed, we take the dough out from the fridge and we repeat the same process of rolling. And we again take 1/3 of the dough, put it into the middle, and then take the second part and put it on top. And again take care that there is no dough stuck in between the edges. And then we take again the foil and put the dough into the fridge for another 20 minutes. Then again we take out the dough, remove the plastic and roll it again for a third time. When you overlap the dough, you can always make sure that there's no flour stuck in between. Now put the dough again to rest into the fridge for around 20 minutes. When you take out the dough, this time we want to put it into the right shape to make the croissants. So roll it into a big rectangle. Then take a knife and cut it into half. Now take one of that half and start cutting out triangles from the dough. Now we have the opportunity to see what a good job we did with the touring, because ideally there will be many layers of butter visible in the dough. Now we take the triangle, put it in front of us and roll it a bit flat and more wide. Then we cut a little down into the middle and then we start rolling it up like this.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
And then we can close it. If you want to put some filling into your croissant like chocolate or cheese, then you can just put it right before the cut you made and roll it up together. Put all the croissants on a prepared tray with baking paper, and if you want to keep them for the next day, you can put some plastic foil and then put them into the fridge. Because I put mine into the fridge for the next day, they first have to get warm again so the yeast can do its job and let them rise. For this purpose, our oven is very practical because we can put it into a low temperature. In that way the yeast will rise much more steady and faster. The ideal temperature for this is around 35 degrees. When the croissants are big enough, you can put the oven on 180 degrees for around 20 minutes. So I came back after 20 minutes, but I saw that they were not brown enough, so I put them for another 5 or 6 minutes into the oven. And this is how they look once they are done. So that's basically how to make fresh croissants without eggs. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I know I haven't been able to explain it ideally. But to be fair, it took me around 6 months in my apprenticeship to learn that skill myself. So what I'm showing here is more the result of practice. That is what you need in order to do croissants. You need practice and patience. But once you got it, you can impress your friends with homemade croissants. Now one thing I forgot to mention in the video is that you can actually freeze your croissants easily and keep them therefore always ready to bake up freshly. For that, simply let the croissants rise for about half the time than usual and then freeze them. When you take them out, just let them rise up completely and then you can bake them fresh. Since making croissants is quite a labor, that could be a good solution if you want to eat them regularly. So that's all for this tutorial, at least for the practical part. But now comes, as promised, the philosophical aspect. Before I became a monk, I made an apprenticeship as baker, and I worked afterwards for about a year. I've heard many times the idea that for spiritual life you have to leave your material life completely behind. There's some truth to that in most practices, but the practice of Bhakti-Yoga or devotional service offers us the opportunity that instead of renouncing our talents and knowledge, we can engage them to serve God with love. And there's no end to our creativity. For example, we have a formal butcher coming here on a regular basis. And since we are vegetarians, we could wonder how can you use that knowledge of butchering for spiritual life? Well, I tell you, I have never had sharper knives to work in the kitchen with before. And it's very difficult to cut vegetables without a sharp knife. Since we all love to eat nice food for our pleasure, why should God not be capable to enjoy food we offer to Him with love? The remnants of that offering is called prasadam, which means mercy, and is sanctified food. A devotee of Krishna vows to accept nothing that has not been offered to him before. In that connection, I would like to show you the offering of the croissants I made to the Lord. And you can simply offer your food to the Lord by chanting the following mantra before eating. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like to check out the other videos on my channel, please feel free to do so. I wish you a nice day and see you next time.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.